Why? We'll get into that when we get back to nails. If you were to generalize about, because they're basically, you kind of broke it down into 3 nail or angles of attack, right? So there's kind of like the Julian brain.
Left side.
The difference
center,
left, center, and right. If you were to say what the big, pick 1 or 2 things that make each one of those what are the results, the sound results?
So when you are like Segovia, Ida Presti with the tilted and playing on the left side this much, you get a little bit heavier sound, and then thinner on the other side.
Yeah, the thumb can dig in a little bit.
Because you get more weight on the thumb, but you also need to have, in order to maximize that, you need to have a different angle of filing that will fit that position better, which I cannot fully show.
We'll
my current
the reason we haven't done nails yet is that I don't know nails still, so I'm gonna wait.
So that you get weight. The con is a little bit that you're reaching with the A finger, and it sounds a little tiny in comparison. The pros, besides getting bigger sound on PIM, is that your hand relaxes completely. You're not holding it.
Yeah.
So you're really letting it fall. And for scales works well because your I finger is shorter than your M. You look, and then if you actually do this and you tilt, it evens it up.
Yeah.
So here, your I finger has to stretch. If I tilt it, now they are even. The problem is they are even on I and M only. A finger needs to stretch. So when you're playing a little bit more John Williams, with the hand here, more straight, the advantage is your alignment between A and I. First, your nails have to be a lot shorter for these. And there I get cut now. But your alignment is great because every finger is reaching about the same. It's not that the I finger needs to extend, but they all align on first string.
Yeah.
So your attack and contact point is very consistent. Because you don't have to change anything. It's your same point here for everything.
Okay.
Then it's very good, for example, for tremolo. Depending of you, because the tremolo is already aligned.
Do you find that you use that alignment for tremolo even in other contexts you don't?
Yes, I do. But I sometimes also drop the hand.
What do you mean?
Like the Segovia position. Tremolo too, depending if I want more clarity. See? And I want more thump, more heavy on the thumb. When I do, see, I have lot less thumb. Here, alignment. Then also when I'm transitioning from arpeggio to single strings, there's almost no rotation. Like if I'm doing this, I will always have to tilt or rotate. But when you are here front,
is that why they did that? Because they did less stroke a lot more in those.
Correct. So the alignment is better. It's also a little brighter in sound. A nail and M are not very good. But when you have these, you can manipulate on this angle more the right or the center or the left with a little tilt.
Yeah.
I mean with least amount of tilt. Here, this is John Williams. If I do this, I'm already playing with the left side. If I do this, center. If I'm doing this, right. So the rotation is very little. Meanwhile, if you're here, you only get left. Left side.
So in other words, if 80% of the time you're in the John Williams, it's easier to go to the other ones versus
just going from one
David
string.
Russell all the way to Bream and
correct,
Segovia.
which are completely opposite.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's easier to transition that way. Also, it's very good. This position is prone depending on the length of your thumb, because it will allow for the thumb to fill out separate. Well, when here, it feels more like a unit. In here, the thumb, you can feel it much more independently. In other words, you have, in here, everything works like a twister going in. When you're doing John Williams, this feels one thing and this feels another one. It's much more difference.
Yeah.
So it's easier to work on independence on that. Because I will be working one wave with the thumb and then another completely different motion with AMI. Because in thumb I use it more for arm and weight, and here just attack from the string here. Versus this, getting more nail check, which is the third one, which is David Russell, which they open the palm like this.
Yeah, it's much more darker.
Because you have much more nail contact.
More nail or more flesh?
Nail contact.
Really? Okay.
Because the ramp, the string to get through the ramp takes longer.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Here, is another advantage of this is the release is much more immediate. When you're John Williams, the contact point is much more immediate. When you're doing here, you get much more resistance because the ramp needs to clear.
Okay.
So you get more nail contact. Also flesh, by the way. You're correct in assuming that it's also flesh. But in general, when it creates that warmer and round sound, it's just that the ramp is pushing the string down and it has a lot more trajectory to go through.
And you don't think it's the flesh contact as well, or?
I do.
Okay.
You need to put, it's both. But like, the good thing about the flesh is when you're playing, if you land with a nail, you're always gonna get like this.
Yeah.
Because the string is vibrating and you're stopping with a hard surface. But see, that's with flesh. This is with nail.
Yeah.
So when you're doing flesh, so I get no noise.
So in any of those positions, you can manipulate the amount of nail and flesh contact as well. Okay.
Absolutely. See, and here it's a little bit less usual for me. But in here, I'm also putting flesh. Because the nail is terrible, don't mind that, but I'm putting flesh.
Yeah.
And then going through, because if I do nail, the same, that little,
That clicking of the string.
that happens, that is, when you start hearing. And then another thing that affects this is how long your torso is and your forearm and your angle of the guitar position. Because in the same position, let's say John Williams, I hear, no? If I do this, now all of a sudden the weight is more towards the thumb and the eye finger. And I'm playing closer to what Segovia is. Versus, or this. See how that changes?
Let me know if you agree with this. This is why I'm trying to focus more on like getting people to think about the setup and the movement, because you can play with different attack angles in different positions, but you should be aware that the position of the guitar is going to affect how comfortable that is. That's why Lucia has to go all the way up, to do his rest. Paco de Lucia. Like when he has to do that big, because he's sitting like this, he's got to, but because he's sitting flamenco, he's got to.
Then he doesn't have room. He needs to come in to shorten the distance between here and the forearm and the finger. When he goes here to shorten here.
And if you remember that clip I sent you, it's like he goes from chords playing pretty normally to.
See? Shorten. In classical, we do about the same thing, but because the bow is lower, you don't see it on the shoulder. We just move here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that covers.
So there's difference on tone, there's different of contact point, there's different of weight, of the finger's weight in each one of those positions. And then the nail surface attacking. The David Russell one, you have more nail contact. William, much faster release, and then more heavier on the left side. If I do the same thing, and here it feels less relaxed a little bit, so I give in relaxation of dropping of the wrist to a more active wrist, not locking, but more active wrist to get more of the roundness of sound.
Yeah.
But having that variety gives you a lot of possibilities.
Do you, and I don't necessarily want this book to be about what you do, but just out of curiosity, do you switch a lot between these different positions? Like, are you going to play like Ida Presti for a whole piece?
No, for a whole piece, no.
Okay, just like for tone and for color for certain sections.
You manipulate that like crazy. In other words, it's good for every student, even when you have a preferred where you're playing, to be the steady, to have the dexterity to be able to play each one of them, so you can combine more.
I think that's a good example too. Let me know if you agree, because it's kind of slow. Like if it was fast, you probably wouldn't want to make all those changes. But in the slow piece, it gives you all this color.
But in the fast you can too, you know.
No, I just mean relatively speaking.
Yes.
In slower context, you have more color to play with.
Because you can do like Ida Presti or Segovia. Transition to that to get you, because it gives you more volume, because you have a little bit more nail contact and changing from here to here. So now transition. Then William is brighter. Then here's Oya, to get more bass, just tilting it slightly, left side of the nail. Then Williams, or you can do Rosa. Then immediately I went. So you can combine. Of course, it's less 14 minutes. It's less advisable to do it at a higher speed when you're doing a continuous 16 note pattern.
Yeah.
But that's why I show this piece, which is a continuous 16 pattern that still can be done.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it in the entire texture. I'm doing it on the line that comes out.
You kind of like, hey, this phrase I want to be a little darker. This phrase I want to be a little brighter.
But also the melody. For example, when I'm doing this. Just bringing that single melody on the top, different cut. Tam tam pam pam, pim pim tam tam.
Yeah.
On attack.
That's cool. Okay. I'm gonna pause this.